Oh, this is Matthew with Swordslinger Custom Holsters doing another radio review. Like I've said before, I just do these reviews kind of as a hobby. I like playing around with GMRS radios and ham radios and things like that. Any kind of two-way communication, two-way radio communication. So I threw up a few reviews a couple months back. The first one was on a Baofeng GM15 Pro GMRS radio, and got a good many views with it, response for it, and because of that, the company Talkpod reached out to me and asked me if I would do a review on this radio here. It's a Talkpod A36PLUS. They did send this to me for free, no strings attached. They just sent me the radio for free and asked me to do a review. And I've had it for a couple weeks now, and I've actually enjoyed the radio. It's a really neat radio. I've kind of compared it to the Baofeng GM15 Pro. This is the one I use most of the time, and I've kind of compared it to this. This one here, the GM15 Pro is like, I think around $30 retail on like Amazon or something like that. This one here is like $59. So there is a significant price difference. I mean, it's double the price. So that is a factor. It performs about the same. Although I do pick up just a little bit clearer transmission, and I was able to get just a little bit farther with this one than I did the Baofeng GM15 Pro. Not sure if that was, it wasn't very much farther. I don't know if that was just a fluke, right time of day or whatever. So that is noteworthy. And that was using the this radio, the Talkpod, with a Nagoya 771G antenna. Now I will note that we did get a little bit clearer transmission with this one before we put that, but then it started garbling out than we normally do with the GM15 Pro. It wasn't very far to really make a huge difference, in the price cost. I still like the Baofeng. And honestly, if I had to pick between the two, because of the price, I would probably go with this one. But before we make our final decision on that, I do want to talk about some of the features on this one that I really do enjoy. So let's go ahead and power it up. One good thing about it is an LED screen. It's easy to see in the dark. It has a pretty fast scan too, which I like that. A little bit faster than the GM15 Pro. Now, one thing that I really like that I wish the Baofeng could do is programming these buttons up here. So let's say go to GMRS 5. You can program these to do certain things. So for example, I programmed the top here. If you click this button, it goes directly to NOAA weather radio. So if we hit the scan button, and it's not going to pick it up inside. I don't pick NOAA weather radio very well inside, but you hit that and it goes directly to NOAA weather radio or whatever you want to program it to. And like this one here, I have it programmed to this little feature called search. Now this is different than a scan. I haven't really quite figured out exactly what the huge benefit was, but for example, if I have all my channels programmed and I hit search and somebody is, let's say, transmitting on GMRS 5, it will come up with the frequency and tell me the privacy code they are using, which is pretty neat. That's a pretty neat function that the Baofeng does not do. Another thing that you can do is, so you hit this once and it does seek, and then you can hold the button down and then it will actually scan, which is pretty neat. And I programmed all that in. You hit this one and it goes to AM or FM radio.
Work hours are 7 a.m. until
and it's pretty good little FM radio. I've used it outside working and things like that, and it works real well. This is the stock antenna, and for what it is, it actually works really well, considering how small it is. And I've tried it with some different antennas, and this one works pretty well. I mean, I wouldn't mind just, you know, using it the way it is. If I were to use this like I have been the Baofeng, I would upgrade to a Nagoya antenna, probably a UHF and VHF antenna. Now the reason why, and this is a huge plus with this radio, this is a GMRS radio and a ham radio. Now when it first comes to you in the box, it is a GMRS radio, and you have to do an unlock feature where you hold this down 8, and I think it's AB, and or no, you turn it on and then it'll unlock. It'll say expand on the screen, and you can unlock the ham feature on it. So considering this is $29 for just a GMRS radio, and this is $59 for a ham and GMRS, that is a huge plus. So you have to throw that in there as well. Now the other thing in this radio that makes it really neat is it has airband. And I'm not going to be able to pick up anything in the house here on airband, but you can, for example, I was able to program certain frequencies for airports that are like, probably 20, 30 miles away. And I have picked up a few things here, and that's an AM band, so that's AM. So that is really neat. I do not have a radio that has airband. You can go outside and you can run through the frequencies, which the airband frequencies are like, here we go. It's like one, hold on. And you can scan through them. And let's see. You can scan through those airband frequencies, and if you see the NAM, that's the airband, and that's really neat. You can go outside and listen to airplanes above. They're usually very quick transmissions, not very long. When I was in Baton Rouge, which is about an hour from me, they have a big airport there. I picked up a whole lot more there on those frequencies when I was there in town. So if you live in a rural area, unless you know the frequencies they're using right over your head as they're flying by, you're not going to pick up a whole lot. Maybe. I haven't really tried a whole lot, but it is a feature. I mean, it's a feature that is not on the Baofeng. And it's a ham radio. It's a GMRS radio. Now, another thing that was really neat with this radio, and added value, is it comes with its own programming cable. The Baofeng does not, so that is an extra $6 or $9, depending on what programming cable you use, that you get for the $59. It also comes with a charging port, a dock to put it in, which most of them do, but the thing I like about this radio and the Baofeng the most is it comes with a USB-C charging port. I think that should be a standard on all these radios, and so does the Baofeng. Baofeng does as well. Another neat thing is the charging port goes into the battery, not into the radio. So if you ever have any thing that breaks in the radio around the charging port, it doesn't affect the radio, it's in the battery, so you can just replace the battery. That's kind of an added feature as well. It is a pretty hefty, there we go, let's see, picked up something. That was on airband. It's a pretty hefty radio. It's much lighter than the Baofeng. I kind of like the weight of the Baofeng because it feels really rigid and tough. But it is, and it's about the same size. It's not much different. It's a little thinner. So there is that. It does feel pretty good quality. I don't know if I would call it heavy duty at all. One thing it does not have is it doesn't have the flashlight like on all the other Baofengs and other Chinese radios. That's really not a big deal to me, although I know people say they never use the flashlight on these radios. I actually have been in situations where I have my radio outside and I have actually used the flashlight, so it is an added benefit. One thing I don't like about this radio is the push to talk button. Let's talk about that for a second. it is very sensitive. In fact, out of all the radios, handheld radios I have, it is, let's see if I can demonstrate it where you can actually tell. I mean, it is so light. If that's a big deal to you, I mean, I'm just making a note to it. It is, I mean, very sensitive. I mean, here's a UV5R. It is more sensitive than that. And it's more sensitive than that one. And you know what? The switch may be the same inside the component, but maybe it's because these have like a rubber coating on them, and maybe there's a little bit more there. You know, I'm feeling them here, and it does feel like it's a similar switch in there. It's a similar button. But for some reason, it's really easy. Now, if you were trying to, if you had some, my wife pointed this out. You had some younger children. You were wanting to, you know, talk on like FRS or something like that, and you know the button is more sensitive, so it'd be easier for them to talk on it. Anyway, that is a huge issue if you're worried about that. As for the features of the radio, it is really similar to about everyone out there. I mean, it does have 2 monitoring channels, which is neat. The Baofeng GM15, you can have 2 channels up, but it does not monitor them both at the same time. I've heard people tell me that it does, but mine does not. It does not monitor them both. This one does. It does monitor them both at the same time, and then you can switch back from main and do that. And that's a little irritating with the Baofeng, because I know they could have done that, and you can monitor 2 bands at the same time, but for some reason they didn't. I still like the Baofeng. I mean, it's still a good radio for what it is. So another ham radio that I have that I didn't really compare it to is the UV82. Now, I've had this one the longest. This was my first one, and I really like the UV82. It is really good radio for what it is. It's not very big. It's heavy duty. I wish it had a USB charging port on it like these other ones. The UV5R, this is the UV5R5. This is actually not even mine, it's just one I borrowed. I don't have much experience with this. I've played around with it, but I haven't done much with it. There's a gazillion videos out there on YouTube about this radio. So I'm not really comparing it to anything here, but the UV82 and the Talkpod A36PLUS and the GM15 Plus. That's kind of what I've been comparing them to. This one's GMRS only. This one's ham and GMRS. This one's ham and GMRS if you program it. Concerning the legality of it, then, you know, that's up to you what you want to do. But you can program them for GMRS and ham and do that. You cannot do this with this one. I don't know if you can even unlock this one. Never have looked into it. Really don't care. I only use it for GMRS. And it works really well. Like I said, that's one of my favorite radios. I have a couple of them, and my wife and I, we've practiced with them. And on this one here, I've gotten a distance of around 6 to 7 miles, GM15 to GM15, and I think that's pretty good. And that was with not a stock antenna like the rubber duck antennas, but that was with another. This came with the Baofeng, and it seems to be comparable maybe with a Nagoya or something like that. It came with the set. We bought a set of 2, and it comes with longer antennas, and that works really well. One thing the Talkpod could do that would work really well, I think, is if they maybe threw another antenna in there. But for the price, $59, you get the programming cable, you get the charging port. It also has the USB compatible charging. You can listen to airband, ham, GMRS, FM radio, weather radio, all those bands in one little radio. So for $59, you really get a lot for your money. If you did not want the airband, If you subtracted that from whatever that is worth to you, and the charging cable, you could go with one of the Baofeng ham radios and get the exact same thing. You won't get an LED screen. You won't get these programming buttons and things like that where you can program them. So just make your decision. I don't think $59 is bad for this radio. In fact, I think it is very well priced when you consider the charging port, the programming cable, and the air band and things like that. So anyway, that is my thoughts on the Talkpod A36PLUS. I really wish I had another one, and maybe I'll get one in the future and do a range test between two of them. Talkpod to Talkpod, and I'm interested to see what this company comes out with in the future. Now, one thing I will add is they do come in 3 different colors: the green, transparent, like transparent plastic, and black. I got the green. I thought it was a little different. If you dropped it in the woods, it'd be a little easier to see, and kind of broke up some color standards with all the other radios I have, which are either the OD green or the black. I kind of wish I'd gotten the transparent one because I think that'd be kind of neat, but I like the green. And one real quick thing before we close is I did not care for take the battery out. You gotta really pinch down on that, and it was a little hard. There it is, which may not be a bad thing. You don't want it to come in loose, but I did have trouble getting it out compared to the Baofeng, which has like this little switch down here. It has a real positive click off, and then click back on. This one here, you rock it back into there, and then there you go. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Talkpod A36PLUS. I still have several other radios that I want to do a review on that I just have not yet. I have the Radioddity 25 watt mobile radio that I'm going to do a review on soon, and I also have the Radioddity CB radio, 5 watt or 4 watt CB radio in my vehicle. I have both of those. I'm going to do a video on those really soon because I've used those a lot in the last couple months. So anyway, this is my review of the Talkpod A36PLUS. Thanks Talkpod for sending it to me and doing a review on it. I did enjoy it. It's a really good radio. And anyway, until next time, thank you for listening to Sword Slinger Custom Holsters radio reviews. If you want to help out the channel, go over to my website, swordslingerholsters.com, and order a holster. That's what I do for a living over here. I don't review radios for a living, just a hobby of mine. And I'll make you a holster and be happy to do it. Anyway, thanks for watching.